brief intro to give you an idea of how the forensic investigation is done on build damages in buildings. So you all know what forensic investigation exactly how it happens. We have seen all that. So sir is going to help you teach or tell you how to identify the different damages and how to make come to the conclusion that it is due to these particular reasons that we have those damages in the buildings. I welcome you, sir, to give your valuable inputs into the particular topic. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, madam, for the introduction. Good morning, students. My name is R. Christopher Daniel Raj. As madam introduced, I worked in Central Public Works Department for 36 years. And after that, I gave my voluntary retirement and I joined Hindustan as a teaching faculty. So seeing my past experience, they also involved me in construction activities, maintenance activities, and now I am the estate officer for the entire Hindustan group of institution. They have various sister concerns like KCG College of Engineering at Karapakam. They have some 4 or 5 international schools. They have Orient Flight School at Mysore, and likewise they have our Hindustan group has got a number of buildings, and I am in charge. I'm looking after all the construction and maintenance work of all these buildings. So I don't know how many of you know what Central Public Works Department is. Have you ever heard of anyone? Can you tell me whether you know what CPWD is? Hello, students, are you able to hear me?
Students, please do interact and please do take note down the valid points that sir is going to be giving to you. So please do interact with sir and so that you can make the maximum benefit out of this lecture. Shweta, Kaviyarasu, are you able to hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what CPWD is? Have you heard?
Shweta.
I have heard about it.
Maintenance.
Kaviyarasu, louder. We are not able to hear you.
Maintenance of central government buildings.
Christopher sir, you are not audible now.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Why this is happening? Audible, no?
Now it's audible.
Okay. Central PWD is a government agency which involves in construction of central government buildings all over India, and not only construction, and after construction they look after the maintenance of this central government buildings. So this is one of the oldest government agency in India, and you might have seen the Parliament building, Rashtrapati Bhavan, and Income Tax Department, Central Excise, Customs, CBI, all these central government agencies, they have buildings all over India, and we look after the construction. And when I say construction, we have a very full-fledged quality control team. They go and monitor the quality control quality of the construction which is undertaken all over the country. So before the topic is the investigation of failures. So before going into what a failure is and why the failure happens, let me just give you a recap of all these things you may be knowing. But if you have a recap of all this, what do you call the traditional civil engineering nomenclatures, you will have in-depth knowledge on what can be done for investigating failures of structures. So let me start with cement. Cement, as you know, it constitutes calcareous materials like limestone or chalk and argillaceous material like shale or clay. So this is available in nature. So they take these materials are taken from the nature, and by the process, there are two processes: dry process and wet process. And mixing of limestone or chalk with shale or clay in required proportion, and it is burnt in 1300 to 1500 degrees Celsius, and then it is cooled down and it is finely grounded into a fine powder by adding 3 to 5% of gypsum. And the types of cement, all these things you may be knowing, but let me have a brush up of all these things. The types of cements are ordinary Portland cement, rapid hardening cement, sulfate resistant cement, Portland slag cement, quick setting cement, and Portland pozzolana cement. So as soon as the material is received at site, I tell you again and again, I'm telling you, quality of material plays a very vital role in the what you call the fitness of a building. So if you are using a very good quality material, the life of the building or the construction will be strong, and the life of the building can be elongated. So the first and foremost thing what you must bear in mind is all the materials which are brought to site should be tested, and there should not be any duplicate materials used in the construction. So the result for failure of many structure is because of this part. This part, the people who are in charge of the project, if they neglect it, it will result in failures. So the cement, as soon as it is brought to site, at random we have to select a cement bag and test it for its fineness, consistency. All these things you might have studied in your UG. We use the VCAT apparatus, and how consistent the cement is, then the initial setting time and the final setting time. And we cast small cubes and test the compressive strength of cement. Then soundness of cement is determined using Le Chatelier apparatus, and the chemical composition of the cement is found out. So all this testing is to be done at site, and they have a register called testing register. Kindly note down testing register or test register. Test register is mandatory. It has to be maintained in all sites, and all the materials which are brought to site should be tested, and entry should be made in the test register. So any investigation, any failure which occurs in the building, the first thing the investigating agency will do is go and get the test register and find out whether all the tests have been conducted or not. So these are the tests as far as cement is concerned, and the entry has to be made in the test register. Next, bricks. Types of bricks, we have common burnt clay bricks, fly ash brick, Aerocon brick, hollow bricks, solid blocks. So nowadays, because of the scarcity of availability of clay in the nature, we are going in for this Aerocon bricks, hollow bricks, and solid blocks are mostly used nowadays. These are all eco-friendly, and when you are constructing a building, we call a concept called green building, where green building we are not supposed to use common burnt clay bricks. Only the Aerocon, hollow, or solid blocks bricks are supposed to be used in the construction. Next, the test on bricks. So as soon as the brick is being unloaded by the contractor at site, the brick has to be tested for the following parameters. Number one is dimension tolerance. So for finding out the dimension tolerance, what we do is we lay 20 bricks side by side and find out the length, breadth and width, and find there is a tolerance limit within which the
Sir, you are not audible. No, sir. Nice. Yes.
Now okay.
Yeah, yes, yes, yes.
Okay, the dimension tolerance, we have that brick we have to test. Then water absorption. The water absorption should not be more than 20%. And next we have a test called efflorescence. Efflorescence is nothing but a white patch appears on the brick after the brickwork is done. So this is mainly because of emission of chemicals from the bricks. So this is one of the tests which has to be done. And next is the compressive stress. This is more important because the nomenclature or the brick quality what you have to use is mentioned by this number. So if the client asks for a 12.5 bricks, then you have to have a brick which has a compressive strength of 12.5 Newton per square mm. So likewise, this brick test also should be noted in the test register. Next, sand. Sand also we have to, whatever sand is being brought to site at random, we have to select and do the testing. So this test for sand is sieve analysis, silt content and bulkage. So sieve analysis you might have done in your UG. We have a sieve shaker, in that we take 1 kg of sand and find out at what percentage the sand passes through each sieve, and there is a limit for each sieve. The sand should pass so much percentage. We have a chart for that, and that has to be adhered to. Suppose if you are doing the sieve analysis and your sand does not fall within that parameter, we have to reject that sand. Next is silt content. As you all know, the sand is being taken from the river bed. So the river bed may have a lot of silt present in it. So the sand which we are using for construction should not have more than 8% of silt content in this. So this silt content also you might have done the test in your UG. And next is bulkage. Bulkage is nothing but the quantity of moisture present in the sand. So if there is a moisture present in the sand, that will add to the water. So before that, let me tell you one concept called water cement ratio. For any concrete to have a full strength or to achieve its full strength, the water cement ratio should be followed meticulously. If you are going to add more water or less water, that will be detrimental to the quality of the concrete. So this water cement ratio we have to follow very strictly, then only the strength of the concrete can be achieved. So this bulkage, if your the sand has got a lot of moisture in it, that moisture will add to the water content of the concrete, and that will disturb the parameter of the water cement ratio. That is why this bulkage test we have to do daily. That is, whenever concreting is done on the day of concreting, morning we have to do the bulkage and find out how much extra water has to be added more than what is available in the sand. So that will be based, that will form the basis of addition of water in your concrete. And next, stone aggregate. So now one more point, sand also there is a ban in taking out river sand from river beds. Government has put a ban on this taking out sand. So nowadays we are using manufactured sand, or we call it as M sand. M sand is a replacement for the natural sand. So this M sand also has got a lot of, they say, similar type of parameters which have to be tested, and that test result has to be entered in the test register. And the next more critical material which we have to keep an eye on the quality is stone aggregate. The stone aggregate, whatever is brought to site, it should be rounded in nature. flakiness should not be allowed. What is flakiness? The stone aggregate, suppose it is flat in shape, and the length to depth ratio, we have a certain ratio within which the aggregate should be. Beyond that, we call that the material is very flaky, and we should not allow that aggregate to be used in the concrete. And the color should be dark. The darker the aggregate, the more strong it is, because light color like whitish color aggregate excuse me, whitish color aggregate will not have a strength as that of a dark stone aggregate. Because whitish color aggregates are susceptible for crushing. The crushing strength of the white aggregate is very less. That's why the color should be dark. Specific gravity of the aggregate should be tested. Here again, the sieve analysis is very, very important. That also has to be tested, and crushing strength has to be determined. So again, all the test results should be entered in the test register. And before taking up any construction, before starting any project, the first and foremost thing what you have to see, that is test, is first and foremost thing what you have to test is the water available for construction. Whatever water we are going to use for the construction, it has to be tested before any construction activity starts. The testing of water is very important, because many of the water may be acidic or too much alkaline. It should not be too much acidic in nature, and also it should not be too much alkaline in nature. You all know what a pH value is. It should be around 6.5 to 7, and within that range, if the water is has a pH value, we have to allow it for construction. Otherwise, we should not allow the water to be used in the concrete, because that will have a very serious implication in the quality of the concrete. That is why in any construction activity, wherever you start any building, first and foremost thing, you have to get the water tested and be satisfied that the water is of good quality and that can be used for construction. And one more parameter which you have to get tested before starting any construction activity is the soil testing. Before taking up any, designing the building, or to find out what type of foundation is to be laid for the building, we have to do the soil test. Soil test is the first and foremost test which is done in any construction activity. So because based on that soil condition or the soil composition only, the type of foundation is to be designed. So the soil testing should be done, and water testing is to be done before starting any construction activity. So what are the causes of failures? There are various causes for failures of construction buildings. So we will go one by one. So this, why I am talking about all these things, is for investigating any construction failure, you have to know what is the quality of material that has been used in the site, and what was the procedure adopted for constructing the building, what was the design which was done for the building. All these parameters should be investigated. So that is why you have to have a knowledge of what are all the tests which are to be done for the materials, and what are all the construction procedure which are to be followed in the construction process. So I will just brush up some of the, because the time given to me is only 50 minutes. So let me go through some of the points, and maybe if time permits, I can take 1 more hour next, where we can have a thorough case study of what are all the failures which has occurred in the building. So the causes of failures, the number one is faulty design. You might have seen in the newspapers. Before that, let me tell you, being a MTech students, I advise you to go and read your newspaper daily. Then only you can brush up your knowledge, update your knowledge, keep pace with what is happening in the world around you, and that will give you a very in-depth knowledge of what is what, because tomorrow if you're going to go for a job, or you're going to attend any interview, or if you're going to take up any competitive exams, then that this reading newspaper will help you very much, because that is what has helped me a lot in my life. I used to read the newspaper right from my childhood, that is when I was in the 6th, 7th standard onwards. I used to read the newspaper. So that knowledge has helped me a lot in developing my vocabulary, English knowledge, grammar, and all those things. And not only that, the general knowledge of what is happening around you. So you go through the newspaper daily, whether you like it or not, and get yourself updated, and you browse the net and find out what are all the latest technology and what are all the latest materials that is being used in the construction industry. And my kind advice, don't waste your time by browsing the net for other activities like WhatsApp or Facebook. Don't waste your time. Now is the time for you to study and come up in life. So you have to keep yourself abreast with all the latest technology, and don't waste your time. The time you waste now, you will repent later, because that time the time would have been past and you would not have get any opportunity to get into any job or things like that. So before that, let me tell you, as I was telling you in the beginning of the lecture, what is CPWD? So CPWD, for getting a job in CPWD, there are two methods. Let me tell you, because you are in the MTech curriculum, let me tell you this, because you can plan your future accordingly. There are two types of exam they conduct. One is the Staff Selection Commission. So the Staff Selection Commission, through that, it is nowadays they have made it as a common exam for all the departments. Earlier it used to be exclusive exam for CPWD alone. So now they have made it into a common exam for all the central government departments, like postal, railways, and border works, like that. MES, a lot of central government engineering agencies are there. For that, they conduct this Staff Selection Commission. So if you are getting selected in the Staff Selection Commission, you will be entering the government service at the lowermost level, that is the junior engineer. Junior engineer is the first engineering cadre which is available in the central government organization. So from there onwards, you have to get your regular promotion and come up in the hierarchy. So this is one way of entering into central government job. And the other one is Union Public Service Commission, UPSC, or they call it Central Engineering Services. As you all know, we have IAS officers. They are all administrative officers. So like similarly for IAS officers are there for administrative office, we have an engineering equivalent to the IAS, that is called Central Engineering Services, or we call it as a Group A or Class 1 recruitment. If you get through that exam is very tough, but you can get through. That is not that it cannot be cracked. And that exam, if you get through, you can become directly Assistant Executive Engineer. So that is a gazetted post, and afterwards all the promotion will come up very fast. So my sincere advice for you to get yourself admitted to any of the coaching centers which are available in the place where you stay, and prepare now onwards for these two exams, so that you can get into the government jobs, because nowadays private jobs are all very lucrative. They give you more money, but job security is not there. Anytime they can fire you. But government job is a very permanent job where you can shine yourself. And nowadays the pay structure of government services also as good as that of the private agencies. So my sincere advice for you is to get yourself prepared for the competitive exam now onwards, and be serious in your studies, and don't waste your time in unnecessary activities which will corrupt your mind, and that will lead to nowhere, and you will finally repent on a later date for having done all these things. So let me come back to the subject. So the causes of failures, faulty design. Faulty, so any for any structural failure or any building which fails or crashes or crumbles or falls down, the first and foremost thing the investigating agency will do is catch hold of the design, the structural design of the project. That is what will be first seen by the agency who is investigating into the failure of any building. So this design they will capture, and they will find out who has done the structural engineer, and if the structural design whatever is given has got some fault, and because of that faulty structural design, if the building has failed, they will put the blame on the structural engineer. So being a structural engineer, you have to take adequate precautions, and design the building according to the standards. You have ISI code books and all those things. Based on the codal provisions, the design has to be done. So you should not take it very casual and do it in a very lethargic manner. Structural design forms the basic. This is one of the major failure aspect which of late has come into come into play in the construction industry. That is why for any faulty building which is failed, the first thing they will catch hold is the structural design, and check whether the structural design given for that particular building is in order. Many of this thing has happened because of the structural failure. Let me tell you one small example. I don't know how many of you are from Chennai. People who are from Chennai will know in Amjikarai there is a shopping mall. In that mall, what happened was, when the entrance of the mall has got a very huge beam. That mall is called Hampa Skywalk. Hampa Skywalk, when it was constructed, there was a very huge beam in the entrance. The depth of the beam is very high, and the span of the beam is also very large. So what they did was, when the construction was going on, and when they were trying to remove the centering and shuttering, I will come into what is centering and shuttering on the later part of this lecture. When they were trying to remove the centering and shuttering, they found that the beam was deflecting. Generally, after the strength of the concrete has been achieved, there should not be any what do you call even a single there should not be any deflection in the beam. Whereas in this beam, they found that it was deflecting very fastly. So immediately what they did was, they raised an alarm, and then they called the agency. People from IIT, Anna University went and checked. When they checked the structural design, they found out that one column in between these two, in the middle of the span of the beam, one column was conveniently it was not a deliberate mistake. It was a mistake. They have found out that one column has been missed out in the details given to the fabricators. Why this happens is, nowadays there are a lot of softwares. You may be thorough with those things now, STAAD Pro and all those things. Even if you fail to miss out one point where the column was supposed to come, by mistake that structural engineer missed out one point in that STAAD Pro, and that resulted in this sort of major, and luckily they found out, and then they did a what you call a retrofitting method, and then they made it all right. So why I'm telling you is, the structural design engineer should be very careful when they are doing this structural design. And not only that, the codal provisions, the code book should be holistically followed while doing the structural design. The first and foremost thing, they have to find out in which zone the particular building is being designed. Zone 1, Zone 2, Zone 3. We have various zones for this seismic analysis. So on which zone the building is coming, whether that particular zonal, what do you call, the seismic code is being followed. That should be very, very meticulously seen before starting the structural design, because nowadays a lot of earthquakes are happening very frequently, and this design has to be done. Many of you may, I don't know whether you know or not, there was a very serious earthquake in Bhuj in Gujarat about some say 10-15 years back. And a lot of buildings crumbled, and they came to the ashes, and they came down. A lot of buildings were standing hanging precariously in one direction. Likewise, a lot of damages were there to buildings in that Gujarat, and they found out that all the central government buildings, there was not even a single crack in the building, and they gave a very good appreciation letter for CPWD for having designed and constructed a very good buildings. None of the building was damaged. That was mainly because they take a lot of effort in designing the structural building, and not only that, a lot of quality control goes into the construction when the construction activity takes place. So that is the reason, and you have a factor of safety when you do the design. You have a what do you call, a factor of safety is always taken into account. So that factor of safety should be on the higher side, so that the building, so if you take the higher factor of safety, maybe you may be incurring a little bit extra cost in the steel, but that doesn't matter, but that gives you a very good life for the building. So the structural design has to be taken care of while designing the building. And before starting the structural design, the structural designer should be thorough in his concept, and they should get the details from the client as to for what purpose the building is going to be used. So depending upon the usage of the building, the load calculation, the live load calculation depends upon the purpose for which the building is being used. Say, for example, if you are going to design a residential building, the live load taken will be very less. Whereas you design a commercial building, especially a shopping mall, a lot of moving crowd will be there. So the live load will vary for that particular place. And not only that, if you are going to design a particular room for a particular purpose, say for an office building, and later on if you are going to convert it into a library, as you all know, has got the maximum dead load and live load, because the weight of books are so heavy that the loading for the library should be taken on the higher side. So all this concepts, all this usage of buildings, usage of the rooms should be taken into account, should be taken care of while doing the structural design. That is why the structural designer has to have a very good what you call a communication with the client, and get first-hand details from them as to for what purpose the building is being constructed. So the one of the causes and the major cause of failure is the faulty design. So the structural design has to be taken care of, and as I told you, the first and foremost document which is being confiscated when an investigation is done is the structural drawing. Number 2 is communication error. As I told you, a civil engineering project involves a lot of stakeholders. The client will be there, the architect will be there, the contractor will be there, then the structural designer will be there. Even among the contractor, there will be various agency, electrical contractor, plumbing contractor, and concreting contractor. Likewise, there are a lot of agency put together. They do the work for any construction activities. So the communication between these agencies should be very proper. Even if there is any miscommunication or a communication gap between the agencies, that will result in a very serious failure of a building. So the communication has to be very proper. And when I was talking about the design of a structural design, the structural designer, as soon as he designs the building, he or she should hand it over to the person who is doing the drawing, or the draftsman. The draftsman or the person who does the drawing should fully understand what the structural designer has done, and that should be put into black and white. whatever the structural designer has designed, that has to be put in black and white in the form of a plan, structural drawings. When the designer gives it to the draftsman, he has to communicate to him in a proper manner so that he understands and the drawing is done properly. And after the drawing is drawn, the structural engineer should check once or twice and be sure that whatever he has designed has been put in the plan. And next, this plan goes to the contractor. So the contractor again has to read the plan properly. Whatever doubt he has to go and ask the person who has done the structural design and get himself clarified and doubly sure. Then only the the fabrication part should be taken up. So once the contractor is satisfied, he gives it to the labor who does the fabrication. Fabrication is nothing but cutting and bending the steel rods. So though the person who is doing that, he also should not commit any mistakes while reading the drawing, and he has to do whatever is given in the drawing. And the structural engineer, after the bar bending is laid in the site, he has to come and check whether it has been laid as per the structural design, whether the number of rods, the diameter of the rods has been followed meticulously. He has to design, and then only the concreting should be allowed. Even if there is a small communication gap between the agency, that will end up in a serious disaster. And this communication should be very, very proper. And not only that, the communication between the structural engineer and the client, that is the starting point where the structural engineer comes to know what type of building and what usage it is being put. Likewise, it is a very circular thing. And not only that, once the structural engineer starts designing, he has to have a dialogue with the architect also. So the architect will be telling, I don't want a beam in this place, that will spoil the appearance of my building. So accordingly, they should have a communication between them. I want a beam in this place. I do not want a beam in this place. The beam depth should be this much. It should not be more than this, because that will affect the false ceiling. Likewise, a communication has to be there between the architect and the structural engineer. And likewise, this is a very big network where there should not be any communication gap that will lead to the failure. So many a place, this communication error is one of the main causes for failure of any buildings. So the, for example, if you say the client says that I want the building for so and so purpose, and the structural design engineer did not follow it properly, or did not by mistake he has made some changes, that will lead to problem. And not only that, if suppose the beam is designed for a particular the steel, say the structural designer says 8 rods of say 16 mm, and while doing the drawing, the person conveniently misses one steel rod and puts only 7. That will also lead to problem. And not only that, when the bar bender reads the drawing, he has to read it properly and put only the required number of bars. Even if he fails to leave out 1 or 2 bars, that also will lead to this is failure. So that is why the construction communication has to be proper between all the agency, and that will avoid the failures. Next is change of usage of building. So as I told you, building has been designed for a particular purpose, means it has to be used for that purpose alone. Otherwise, if any change of usage on a later date is being planned, means then the structural engineer has to make sure that the change of usage will not affect the structural stability of the building. That is why for any change of usage, the structural stability certificate has to be obtained from the structural engineer. And the next point is faulty construction. So the all this thing is done, the communication between the agencies is done, the structural drawings are ready, the fabrication is ready, and while doing the construction, actual construction, that is laying concrete or doing centering and shuttering, all those things that has to be done in a as per specification. There should not be any deviation in specification. So what is specification? specification is nothing but what are all the types of construction has to be taken up, what are all the materials to be used, what are all the procedures to be followed. All these things are comes under a book called specification. So the specification, if you see, the Central PWD has issued a book called CPWD specification. That specification is being followed for all the construction activities throughout India, may it be a private firm or a government firm. That CPWD specification is being holistically used for all the construction. So how to get those specification? So you have to be very thorough with the specification. Tomorrow, if you are attending any interview, most of the questions will be asked from the specification. So how to download those specification and all those things, I'll maybe I'll let you know in the classes to come. Maybe I'll be taking 1 more hour, and there I'll be telling you more about how the specification is to be downloaded and how it is to be followed. So the construction, when the activity takes place, the specification has to be followed. So how the specification is to be followed, how the construction activity is to be done, and what are all the other causes for failures, and all these things, I think we can take it up in the next hour, because it's already 9:50. I think you have to go for your next class. So I don't want to stop you from going to your next class. So I will let you know when I will be taking the next class. And in that, we will go more deep into how the causes of failures are. First, we will go through what are the causes, and then we will go to the investigation part, how it is done, and all those things. I will share whatever experience I have. So hope you have followed till now. If you have any doubts, you can ask me now.
Students,
hello.
Any clarification? Yeah. Yes, Shweta, Kritika. Any clarifications? Jagan? You have understood everything. Kavi also.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, no doubts.
It should be either way. They are fully understood or not understood at all.
Understood, yeah. I think they should have understood, because they are all MTech students. So maybe they would have. It would have given them a clear picture, whatever they have studied, how the application happens in the workforce. They would have definitely got an idea, and why it is important that they learn. They thoroughly understand and learn what the significance of whatever is being taught, what the importance they would have understood, because they are getting it from a very experienced from a very experienced person who has been in the CPWD. So what are the expectations that we have from the site of engineers, that I think they would have known, so they would be applying themselves very thoroughly in what they are learning. Okay, sir, thank you very much. So I think we will hope we can have one more session wherein you can share your experiences with how to detect the faults and why the failures have happened, because this is actually forensic investigation. So after the failure, how do we assess them and how to prepare the report? So if you can give us your inputs, like to identify the failures and to pinpoint why such a failure has happened. If you can share with us some case studies, then it would be very nice, sir.
Yes, madam. I think I may require 1 or 2 more hours for doing all those things. So let us see how best we can do that.
Yes, sure, sir.
Okay.
Sure. Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.